Since we bought our trailer, we've pretty much been using the shower as a closet. We decided it's about time that we make it a more functional closet. So we decided to upgrade from a few command hooks to organizers and a hanging system to get the most out of the space. Now, this won't work for everybody. This works for us because we just don't use our shower. We're normally going camping for just a weekend, and when we want to shower, we just use the shower at camp. So we never find ourselves using the shower in our trailer. So for the last couple of years, our shower has basically just been a storage area anyways. So the current system that we've been using is we have some command hooks that are all along the back of the shower. And then we put all of our jackets and sweatshirts, hanging stuff on there. We normally have umbrellas and life vests hanging up there. And then in the bottom on the tub, we put a portable solar panel, and sometimes we'll have a guitar sitting there. So basically, it's just the area where we stash everything. But we really wanted to make this a more functional area. So we wanted to be able to store all of the things that we normally have there, like jackets and umbrellas, life vests, our solar panel, and a guitar. But in addition to that, we also wanted to be able to put the kids' clothes in there. So instead of the backpacks in the bed, we wanted to be able to put their clothes in our closet, our shower closet. We were also hoping that we'd be able to put some shoes in there too. And we did want to make sure that we could still hang wet items up in the shower, because it's nice to be able to hang up wet towels, or when those life vests get wet, to have a nice spot that they could drip dry in the tub. And on top of all of that, we wanted to be able to store all that stuff in there, but we also didn't want to commit to it. We wanted it to be able to all be able to come out of there in case we decide we want to use that shower. We don't want it stuck in there. We want to be able to take it out while we're on a trip and be able to use the shower if we need to. So here is the plan that we came up with. First, we left all of the command hooks in there. They did not interfere with what we wanted to do, and we figured they could still be useful to hang some stuff on as long as it's pretty flat. So like the umbrellas, we still keep on the hooks in the back just because they don't interfere with anything in front of it. So for the main support in our new system, we knew that we wanted to use tension rods. We wanted to put 2 tension rods, so we basically have 2 different shelf areas, and so we wanted to put tension rods in the tub. And yeah, we could have just put the tension rods in the shower just like that, but we wanted to add as much support as possible just because this thing's going to be bumping down the road. We don't plan to have a bunch of weight on it while it's going down the road, but still. What we wanted to do was use those shelves to add a little bit more support to the tension rods. But because of where we wanted the tension rods, it was right at the end of where those shelves were. So it wouldn't end up being very much support for those bars. So what we did was we got these little square supports that are for a tension rod to go into. So they just stick onto the wall, and we stuck them so they're half on the shelf and then half not. And then we just put the tension rod so it's resting on those. So it's resting on those braces that are stuck to the wall, which are halfway on the shelves. The system's still pretty new, but we've gone on 3 trips so far, and these things aren't wiggling, they're staying in place. So far, it's holding really well. Now, at the heart of this system, one of the main goals that we wanted to accomplish with this is we wanted a better way for the kids to be able to get to their clothes. So the system that we were doing is they each had a backpack, and we'd hang the backpack in their bunk beds, and they'd use that for everything. The problem with it is not only was it kind of difficult for them to dig through the backpack and find what they were looking for, but with their backpack hanging at the foot of their bed, they would always tend to kick the backpack out of bed. It would fall on the dog. So we stopped letting them sleep with the backpacks in their bed, but then they're just always getting moved around the trailer. When they're not in the bed, then they're in there. When they're in the bed, then we move the backpacks on the dinette bench or in the tub or somewhere else. So they were just kind of always getting moved around, and it just didn't really seem like the best solution. So what we did in our new closet system is the kids both got collapsing organizers to put their clothes in. So when they pack in these organizers and they can snap shut. So you could cinch them up, click them shut, and the clothes aren't going to come out while traveling. But then as soon as we get to our destination, we hang them up on the shower curtain rod, the new tension rods that we have in our shower closet, and we unhook it, and they have all of their clothes right there. Super easy to get to. Our original plan is we had both of the kids' clothing organizers on the top, but one of the nice things about this closet is it's super easy to move things around. So what we found as we're using it is it works well for our 8-year-old to have his clothes up top, but then our 4-year-old, we like them at the bottom because she can actually get into it herself, get herself dressed, and it's easier for them, so it's easier for us. And that original hook that they had on their bed, it's still useful. Right now, they seem to use it mostly to hang their hats on. So back to how we organize our new closet. We have the 2 clothes organizers for the kids, and then we also have their life vests that we just like to keep in the trailer all the time. And so we just snap those right onto the tension rod, and then on the bottom tension rod, we like to put a shoe organizer, and then we also just have a whole bunch of loose shower curtain hooks, and we use those to hook on all of our jackets, sweatshirts, and towels, that kind of thing. They basically work like hangers. Now for the shoe organizer, we actually have 2 different ones. The first one we got took up about half of the width on our bottom shelf, and it worked really well. There was no issue with it other than the fact that I didn't feel like we had quite enough space for jackets. Now, it did work, and it was enough space until I stuffed a guitar in the side, and then that just seemed like a little much. So, when we went to a thinner shoe organizer, we were still able to fit the shoes that we needed, and we had more jacket space, and I could still fit a guitar on the side without any issues. The original shoe organizer was just a little too big for us. We had an entire row that was just empty. We had nothing to do with that. So this smaller organizer has pockets on the sides as well as the front area. So on one side, I have the kids' boots, and then the other side, I have all of our sandals, which are kind of our shoes that I just keep in the trailer. And then there's still 4 pockets in the front that we can all use to put our shoes in. So that's worked out really well and gives us a lot more space in there. And like I kind of said earlier with the kids' clothes, all this stuff can be moved around. So we started off by having the 2 clothes organizers up top, and then we shifted it so one was up top, one was at bottom. And then instead of all of the jackets and everything at the bottom next to the shoes, we started moving the jackets up top. And then that let us do things like take the life vests when they're wet and take the towels when they're wet and put those next to the shoes and still have a space to drip dry wet items right there in the tub. So it's worked out really well for us, and it's nice that we can mix and match and make different arrangements for what we bring in the fall versus what we bring in the summer. And then in this new closet, we also, on the bottom, we can just lay our portable solar panel that we used to keep in the tub with the old system. We can still put that behind the shoe organizer, behind the jackets. We don't use it very often, so it's not a big deal that it's not super easy to get to, but we still have it still back there. And then on the side, we can still fit the guitar. So we can still fit all of the things that we had before, plus we have the clothes, plus we have shoes, and everything's just easier to get to. So when we travel, we normally have those tension rods empty. Other than the shower curtain hooks, I don't normally have anything hanging on them, but the hooks themselves I just leave on there. They don't seem to matter. But what I do is I close up the kids' clothes organizers. I snap those shut, take them off the hooks, and just set them in the bottom of the tub. And then the shoes, I normally just lay them down on the bottom of the tub. Just same thing as the clothes organizers, is take them off and lay them down. My big concern is I don't want anything smacking into the faucet in the tub while we're driving and messing with those knobs. I don't want anything to get turned on, even with the water pump off still. I just don't want to mess with anything there. So I make sure that everything's laying flat and below that faucet. Plus that way we don't have to worry about any extra weight on those bars while we're traveling. For the items like jackets and that solar panel and the guitar, that kind of stuff, I normally just throw it on our front bed. I find that I can put stuff like that on the bed and it doesn't seem to move while we travel. So I normally take that, just throw it on the bed, and then when we get to camp, just stick it back into the tub and just rearrange the closet. The whole thing takes only a couple of minutes to put together. The kids absolutely love this new setup. It really makes it easier on all of us. And if we still want to use the shower, we still can. It would only take a couple of minutes to pull everything off and just stick it on one of the beds, the front bed or the bunk beds temporarily while you're taking the shower, and then just put it back in. There's nothing permanent about the system. And if you're interested in any of the specific products that we used to build this, I will have links to every single item in the video description. So if you click on that, you'll be able to see all the different little pieces that we used to make this happen. I hope this helped. And if it did, please subscribe.